don't understand diplomacy. Tight situation in the South China Sea. Every bit as tight as Ukraine, every bit as tight as North Korea, and infinitely more critical to the security of this country and the world. A war between the United States and China would probably mean nuclear exchange. Every war game I ever played with the Chinese as our opponent wound up with both sides contemplating nuclear weapons. Why? Because, as my Marines used to say, elephants and sharks can't grapple. We're not about to invade China. We'd be utter fools if we did. And they're not about to invade us. So what do you do after you've fought in the South China Sea? You've sunk their Navy and you've shot down their Air Force, and you're sitting there wondering where to go from that point. Well, the point you go to is the exchange of tactical nuclear weapons, and then up and up the escalation ladder. You don't want that. And the Chinese don't want that. But we're putting ourselves into a position of vulnerability that is alarming right now. And we're not doing anything to help ourselves with regard to that possibility. Climate change is a huge component in that, in the sense that it detracts and is going to detract increasingly more and more resources away from dealing with more imminent problems that are in your face, if you will. I'm not trying to denigrate or decrease the emphasis or priority we should place on that. I'm just saying that they're connected. And they are connected in ways that probably we at the CSWG and elsewhere don't understand yet, but we have this sort of instinctual feeling that this is going to be the preeminent challenge of the 21st century, and that your armed forces are going to be dead center in it, and it's going to be extremely costly, extremely dangerous, and if we don't do something now, and we feel like we're about 2 decades late, but if we don't do something now to ameliorate and adapt, we're going to cost the armed forces many more lives, much more treasure, and ultimately it's going to, the bill's going to be paid by you and other Americans like you. So that's a quick and dirty on why climate change and national security are probably one of, if not the top priority for your Defense Department right now. And let me just add that for 10 years now, 5 in particular, the last 5, I have seen the only federal bureaucracy in Washington that's truly energized on this issue, truly doing the kinds of planning that should be done, truly thinking about it in the ways that it should be thought about in the Department of Defense. And think about what kind of comment that is on the rest of the government, that the Department of Defense is leading the way on this issue, which should be in everyone's inbox. And I'll have to say quickly that Homeland Security has come right along swiftly, as you might imagine. My father asked me, right before he died, I was still in the State Department and we had just created the Department of Homeland Security, and he called me and he said, "Son, I don't understand this move." I said, "Yeah, well, what about it do you not understand?" I didn't want to tell him that I wasn't a big fan of it either. He said, "I already thought we had a Homeland Security Department. It's called the Defense Department." So my party, the Republican Party, made the greatest increase to the federal government since the Department of Defense in 1947. And yet my party's always railing about big government. Well, we've got it now, and we've got to live with it. And I'm glad to see that Homeland Security is as seized of this issue as is the Department of Defense. I only wish the rest of the federal government were the same. Thank you.